Welcome, 6th grade. Today we talk about the moon, Earth's satellite. Alright? Alright? How does the moon shine? Well, its surface reflects the sun's light. So it emits no light itself, but just is a big mirror or reflector. Alright? When we see the sun way back over here, that light hits the moon and the moon reflects that light back to Earth, and that's why we get the light from the moon. It's also why we'll see that the moon doesn't shine all the time, or only parts of it shine at times. Now, why don't we see it spinning on the axis? Why is it that we're always looking at seemingly the same face of the Earth? Well, here's why. Because it orbits Earth once every 27.3 days. And that is exactly how long it takes to rotate on its axis. So every time it rotates on its axis, it has made a full revolution, so we see that full same face again. The two coincide, and that's why we only see that one side of the moon. We always see that same side. Just a reminder, in case I hadn't said it enough. Now, moon phases. The changing appearance of the moon as seen from Earth. So, a new moon means we don't see any moon at all. That means it's completely in the shadow of Earth. Now, as it starts to come out of the shadow, we start to see slivers, and the pieces get bigger until we get to a full moon. That's called the waxing phase, when it's growing bigger. Then from 14 or 15 on, there's the full 16 on, until it gets back down to nothing, it gets smaller. That's called the waning phase. We will have more slides on this, just kind of bringing it up. All right? So, moon phases. When we look here, we kind of go through the whole gamut. Amount of lighted part of the moon increases. So the waxing part. So from the new moon, all right, on up until the full moon, that is the waxing part of the moon phase. The first quarter is when we see half of the moon. Waxing gibbous is when we see 3/4. Waxing quarter was when we saw, or waxing crescent was when we saw a quarter. Full moon, we see it all. Waxing to the full moon. That's when it's getting bigger. Waning now. The amount of lighted part of the moon when it decreases. The waning gibbous. We see 3/4 of it, but it's getting smaller. The third quarter, or sometimes called the last quarter, we see half of it. The waning crescent, we see just 1/4 of it. Then the new moon, we don't see any of it. So, if we look here, of course, my pens aren't working. Which days are the new moon? I would normally highlight this, but the new moon would be obviously day 1 and probably day 2 and 3 where we don't see any of the moon. Or day 30 is included here too. No moon is seen. Day 2, which days are the waxing crescent? Waxing, getting bigger. So 4 through 15 are waxing days because it's growing bigger until we get to the full moon on the 16th. Which day is the first quarter? All right, the first quarter, you're going to have to make an estimate. Now, if we're talking about the waxing first quarter, all right, or the first quarter is the waxing one, it'd be about half the moon. I'd say day 9 or day 10 is when we see about half the moon. That would be the waxing first quarter. Which day are the waning gibbous? All right, the waning gibbous is bigger than that, so probably days 11 through 15 were the waning gibbous. If this is the first quarter, from 4 to 8 is the waxing crescent, where it's getting bigger, and seeing about 1/4 of it might be day 7. I don't know. These aren't exact sciences unless we're really looking at percentages of the moon. Which day is the full moon? The 16th. All right, now we have the same questions. Which day is the full moon? There's the 16th. Which days are the waning gibbous? So from the 17th till we see about half of the moon on the 23rd. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Those are the waning gibbous. Which day is the third quarter? I'd say probably 24th. Then the waning crescent, when it's getting smaller, is 25th through the 29th. And the new moon starts on the 30th and goes to the next day of that month. All right. We've gone through all those. I'm sorry I could not highlight that. I don't know why my board is acting up. All right. Which days are the waning days for this month? So when it's getting smaller. So the idea is to find the full moon, move towards the new moon. Oh, the waning days are the 3rd through the 15th till it gets to that new moon. It's getting smaller. Do you see how it's progressively getting smaller? Day of the week until it's to nothing. Which days are the waxing days? Start from the new moon and go to the full moon. The 17th through the 30th would probably be the waning day or waxing days for those months. It's getting bigger. Which day would be the first quarter? First quarter is when we're waning and getting bigger. 24th. We see half that moon. Which day would be the third quarter? We're looking for half the moon, but when it's getting smaller, the 10th. Full moon to the new moon, halfway, it's getting smaller. Now we want to talk about eclipses. We had a very cool opportunity in 2017 to see the full solar eclipse, and we'll get to it again in 2024, which is going to be here before we know it. But these eclipses are something we're going to talk about. When the Earth or moon blocks light from the other. When the Earth or moon blocks light from the other. We have our solar eclipse. That is when the moon blocks the sun's light from Earth. These happen, but the problem is we don't see them very often because of what you'll see later. So, solar eclipse, when the moon blocks the sun's light. Solar eclipse, the light from the sun gets blocked. Lunar eclipse. Lunar is another name for the moon. When the Earth blocks the sun's light from the moon. So, if it can't get light from the sun, it can't shine. So the moon light gets blocked. Solar eclipse, sunlight gets blocked. Lunar eclipse, moonlight gets blocked. Earth's doing the blocking. Moon's doing the blocking. Solar eclipse. So we have the sun. Then we have the moon moving between the sun and the Earth. And do you see this little bitty guy? That's the place that gets a total eclipse. These other parts here, that purple part, that gets a partial eclipse. And if you're not in those, if you're in the farther northern or the far south, you may not even know that there's an eclipse going on. This is when the moon blocks the sun's light from Earth. That small little part is called the umbra. We were in the umbra in 2017 and will be again in 2024. The only place where a total eclipse can be seen. The penumbrum is that purple spot that I was talking about. Those bigger areas, they will have a partial eclipse. Okay? And there you are. You can see that picture again. Lunar eclipse. Notice the order is different. We have the sun, then we have the Earth, then we have the moon. When the Earth is between the moon and the sun, Earth blocks sun's light from the moon. When it's fully behind, that's the new moon. We don't see it because no light can get to the moon and can be reflected back. Okay? When it's in the penumbrums, that's when it's growing, waning, or waxing. All right? And when it's outside of those, that's when we get that full view of it. It's hard to show in 2D, but in 3D it makes a little more sense. All right? When in the umbrum, it is the new moon, and you can't see the moon. When in the penumbrum, either waxing or waning moon phases. And when it's out of both, it's a full moon. So which are you more likely to see? A solar eclipse or a lunar eclipse? Just by sheer size. the solar eclipse is a very small area, and lunar eclipses, because they happen once a month. The moon phases recycle every 28 days. So if you've gone out, man, there's no moon up in the sky even though it's a clear night, you've seen a lunar eclipse. That's when there's the new moon or no moon in the sky. Now, Mariah. Mariah are the dark spots on the moon's surfaces. All right? They have all these different names, and they were believed to be caused by items interacting or crashing with the Earth's surface. Now, how did we learn about the moon's interior? From moonquakes, which are earthquakes on the moon. We could see how the particles traveled through those items that are there, and the speed at which they traveled let us know what type of materials it was made of. Impact basin are hollow areas formed on the moon's surfaces. You can see nice pictures of these, and they create the Mariah. All right? There you go, guys. Learned all about the moon. Have a good evening. Maybe go see it tonight.